Let's welcome Professor Russell Van Brocklin to OpenTechTalks.tv.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. And for our audience, if you can give a short brief about yourself, where are you based, what you do?
Well, my name is Russell Van Brocklin, otherwise known as the Dyslectic Professor. I'm a New York State Senate funded researcher. And what I do is cognitive enhancement and especially now AI integration. So just to give you an example what I mean by cognitive enhancement, this is the top field in my book, Overcoming
Right.
Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz. All right. This is dyslexia. Do you see how the back part of my brain has next to nothing going on and yours is going crazy? Now, do you see how the front part of my brain's about 2.5 times overactive?
Right.
Okay. I'm going to show you how to use that overactive front part of the brain to something that everybody can use with artificial intelligence to make you much more productive in business using artificial intelligence. So that front part of the brain deals with two areas: word analysis followed by articulation. How is this so powerful? My first program, which was funded by the New York State Senate, is we took
Okay.
a bunch of highly motivated and intelligent dyslexic high school juniors and seniors. They're 16 to 18-year-olds, writing like they were 12. One class period a day for the school year. They were writing like they were college graduates at 22 into grad school. They increased 7 to 8 grade levels in writing in one academic period a day for 180 days. Cost of the program to New York State taxpayers was less than $900. This
Okay.
was 3x as effective as the best dyslexic college for less than 1% of the cost for less than 1/25th of the effort. Okay. That's how
Okay.
powerful this is. So what I did to expand beyond that is there's a book called The Craft of Research. It was written in the mid-90s by the University of Chicago because their PhD students didn't know how to write their dissertations. And it's fifth edition. Yep, fifth edition. It's the top book in the field of explaining how to solve problems and coming up with original things to say. It's based on 3 levels: context, getting everybody on the same page;
Right.
problem, come up with a problem statement; and then come up with an innovative solution. Now, those students who can do that, they find that they can work very effectively with the artificial intelligence. They can guide it, they can teach it, they can work with it, because they just intuitively understand how to solve problems at a very deep level. The problem is with that book is it was originally designed for PhD students.
Right.
And it's a lot of people just say it's just completely inaccessible. So I combined the craft of research with this, and we find it much more successful. I actually make context as I teach it as young to none children. So what I have to go into now is how to combine context and problem that you can
Before you
use.
go, before you go to this, how did you got this idea that, okay, you should be bringing together and then publishing it?
Well, when I presented in New York City, I thought I was done. I mean, we're talking, it was after 5 years. I was New York State Senate funded. I went and I said, I have some of these kids scoring in the 70th percentile of any grad students, and they're at middle school, 8 months ago. And then the professors came to me and said, we don't care. We want the craft of research. I was like, what the heck? You want me to teach this PhD stuff to high school kids? Yes. Well, I ended up teaching it to, elementary school kids.
Right.
All right. So that's what got me going with it. And it took me literally a decade to figure out. And
Right.
why is it so important with how it works? I had a client last year who just
Okay.
finished up college. He hated AI, couldn't stand it. Manager loved it. And what the manager was looking for is there anybody out of our new hires that could add any value to the company? So he calls me kind of in a panic. I said, I trained you in the craft of research. Talk to the AI, type with the AI, figure out how to do context. He does that. Comes back a few days later. I said, go do problem. I said, he comes back, I hate this. And I said, welcome to the adult world. Then he went and did the solution, turns it into his boss. Boss is flipping through, can't work with this, comes to his idea. Excellent, we can use this. Okay. Yes. So within a week, he was training artificial intelligence to his peers,
Right.
knowing nothing about it because he understood how to get the context to work with it, how to get the problem and then the solution. Now, an issue is working with AI when it doesn't like to work with you. It's like working with a temperamental dyslectic. Okay. So
So
when
now
it's
I think
throwing
you're
us,
right. You set up the context for this show, right, for the audience.
yes,
So now is the best time to you unfold the whole story, whole concept.
right. But when AI throws the hissy fit, it's very much like dealing with a dyslectic. So I got very good at figuring out how to do things. And what business people have come to me and said, we don't always need to make a world changing solution, but what we need is everyday business problems. Okay. How do we use AI to quickly just come up with really good solutions? That's what I'm about to go into. So I'm going to do the context and problem. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to figure out, we're going to use a thing called a hero, a universal theme, and an optimum villain. So the hero, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to accomplish? And go in, talk to the AI, create a sentence, a paragraph, a bunch of paragraphs, whatever that is. Now we're going to help you focus your idea. And to do that, we use universal themes. It helps discipline and focus the mind brilliantly. So what you're going to do is we're going to start off again with this book. We're going to flip through. The front part of the brain for the dyslectics is 2.5 times overactive, word analysis followed by articulation. So we have to do word analysis first. So what we do is we're looking for two types of words. One is an action word that takes the hero in the general direction they want to go. And the other one is the most important word, which is the most important word in the sentence. Okay. Then I'd go and just ask AI, what's the best action? What are the action words? What's the best, most important word? Okay. We just list them all out. Then you're going to take two action words at the same time and say which one best represents what the hero wants to do and why. You have AI take out the word, have it create a custom definition, and it'll tell you which one. And then have it do the same thing all the way through until it comes up with the best action word. Then the same thing for the best, most important word. Then you decide which way you want to go. Okay. From there, have AI create a custom definition. Now, the problem you're going to run into is that this is typically very broad. You want something much more narrow that best represents what's in your head. So I would ask the AI to come up with 10 synonyms and custom definitions, 20, maybe 100, depending on
Okay.
how specific you want to get. The AI goes and does that. Then I go and I say, tell me, what do you think the top 5 synonyms and their definitions are that best matches what the hero wants to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and it'll do that. Now, with human, you have to now pick the one that's best in your head. People do 5, some will do 10. Most don't go beyond 10. All right, you pick the one you want to do. Now, that is your post universal thing. From there, you need to figure out what is the best villain who is there to help prevent the hero from accomplishing its goals. Is it a person? Is it a policy? Is it a concept? What is that? Work with AI to figure that out. Once you have it, tell it to put it into a basic sentence. Okay. Now we've done word analysis.
Right.
Now we're going, once we've done that, okay, we're going to go ahead and we have to come up with some context. Okay. How do we do that? All right. What you're going to do is you're going to go and ask it to come up with 3 good reasons.
Okay.
Okay. For each reason, you're going to ask it to come up with a simple universal theme. So you're going to take that universal theme and now you're going to go into your data and you're going to
Okay.
find a quote that deals with that universal theme. And that's what AI is there for. Find me a quote that deals with this. Find a quote for each one. Once you have done that, answer the questions who, what, when, where, how, why. Okay, notice why is last. It's a reason because it's normally the most important. Have AI do that, write it out in a paragraph or however long it is. Now you're going to take those 3 paragraphs and put them together.
Okay.
What the next step is we're going to compress that down. And I would then tell the AI what we want it, what is, say what again, what the hero wants to do. Tell it to keep the essentials of what it wrote, thumb off, cut it in half, roughly in half, the space. And then do that several times until you get down to about 3 sentences. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to ask it to create a problem sentence
Okay.
from that, what you squunched down. And then from that problem sentence, you're going to ask it to come up with a one word universal theme. Now, to come up with your solutions, what you're going to do is to run that context through the universal theme as a lens to
Okay.
come up with 3 solutions. And then those are the solutions to your business problem. Okay. Now, if a human is doing the context, you got to get it down to 1 sentence.
Yeah.
With AI, you can do 3.
Three. True.
Most people do the AI, but sometimes you just want to come up with a solution that you're coming up with. Then you got to keep going down to 1 sentence because that's all humans can really do, and then run it through the universal theme. So you have a very specific context with an extraordinarily specific universal theme. There's only so many things that you're going to come up with. Those are the solid business decisions that people can use and people can understand them. And you can explain your thinking or have AI explain your thinking, how you got there. And once
Wonderful.
it sounds like a lot, but once you practice it, you can get this done, in 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, no, that's I got it. I mean, and just you need to follow a structure and then go with the flow, right? It's just step 1, 2, 3, and then you're getting through it. Okay.
Right. To give you an example, one of my former students wanted to start reviewing movies
Right.
for, small town local paper. Okay, here's how you do it. You know how you get a movie review from somebody who has a Ivy League education that tells you what happened, you know exactly what happened. So what's the point of seeing the movie? I said, what you do is you go through a similar process and you find the universal theme of the movie. You discuss in the review how you think the director, the actors, and the screenwriter did with the movie. And there's
That
your review.
universal thing.
And then people are like, I understand what you're saying, but it's not ruined for me. And a lot of this, what I just told you is for functioning working adults out in the real world, not kids. This is not how you solve things when you're in class. There, your teacher decides how much AI you use. And honestly, I prefer that students don't really get it until they pass the problem stage, until they're really, or if they use any of it, the teacher decides how much AI is used. There's this concept in education now that teachers can't give students to have essays to go and write home, which is how they normally have graded things, because they'll just have AI do it. I said, no,
Right.
here's the process. Tell them what AI they can use at what stage, if any. They can't show you their work step by step. Then you just put a big fat F on it and send it back until they can fix it, until they actually go through the process manually, or how much you want them to manually do it. Teachers love that. And sometimes they'll disagree with me saying, well, I don't think that spot should be AI. I said, that's one of your peers. You can go talk to your peer. Oh, it's a discussion they have internally. Generally works for most people.
No, you're right, said. And the example you gave it to with the kids comparison, and I think now the challenge with everyone in the universities and even smaller classes is what to do with the homework, because kids will use these chat tools, right? And you rightly pointed out that now you need to go to the process and explain it how
Yeah.
you're going to do.
Yeah, what I just explained to you for students to go through that, you're talking the better part of a year to really go through that amount of material, and really understand it. But what I try to tell students is, think, oh, AI is so great. No, it's not. Had one of my students at Full Information Telestore, his name is Reed. He was homeschooled by his mother, Kimberly. So last December, Reed was reading at the second, somewhere like around grade 2, fifth month or something. Within 6 months, his mother had him reading at grade level. Are you familiar with statistics? He jumped 3.2 standard deviations.
Man, okay.
Okay. It's like 1 in 2,000.
Yeah.
The best private dyslectic schools couldn't go that fast. And they had the kids all day with 4 to 1, 5 to 1. That's it. That's 75 grand a year. She did that on her own. So I'm writing the book, teaching the parents how they can replicate this. So, of course, I hired a ghostwriter because I'm dyslexic. And I actually sat down with AI, and
Hmm.
instead of filling out all these things that a ghostwriter would normally send you, I just drafted out a book with artificial, and I sent to the ghostwriter. And she came back to me. She ripped it to pieces, something completely different. And that's what I'm trying to tell people what AI is good for. It's good to get you to a decent first draft or maybe a good first draft, but then
Hmm.
you need a senior human to rip it to pieces and mold it and then polish it until it's. So now she sent me back the first draft, which is completely different, so much better. And what I did is I went and I did a deep research report on I found the first three categories I could go to on Kindle because I want to be a Kindle bestselling author.
Right.
And I found those. And I looked at what are the top 5 books in each category. This was the first time this ever happened. Gave the deep research report took 45 minutes, and because I had to wait was 35 minutes. This took like an hour and a half. All right. Then I got a
Right.
23,000 word report. And then I'm going through. The ghost writer decided to write very short chapters. I would compare what this book was saying with what the ghostwriter did, and the AI said is about 80% there, and is recommending some changes, but I have to keep telling it minimum changes to what she wrote, and I break it down so I'm only doing about 1,000 words at a time, and
Right.
it's adding what it thinks needs to be added. So once I get done with that, I'll send it back to her, and then it'll be completely rewritten, but then we'll incorporate what the best-selling books are doing. And
Hmm.
we'll do that
Hmm.
a few times until I'm ready to hire a real editor. Okay. But that's what AI can be used for in a way of doing it. And one of the other secrets that I found is when you're going out and don't just do a deep research report for the whole project,
Okay.
do it per section. It gives you more of a base to run off of. And those of you, have you used ChatGPT agent so far?
Yeah.
A lot of people I've been talking to said it promises so much, but then like when they go out, it does the research and it writes the email is horrible. I said, okay, if you have the time, if it's worthwhile, once it sends it back, a 5 Pro, not 5 thinking, 5
Yeah.
Pro, evaluate it. And then it'll take 10 minutes and tell you what it thinks. Then I'll say, okay, go fix it until I'm happy with it. Then I'll send it off. So by adding 5 Pro, it does prolong the amount of work it does. I do like 2 things like that while I'm doing something else. And then, if it takes 10, 15 minutes to do anything with 5 Pro, I will go ahead and stop what I'm working on, work at that, and then send it back to thinking, and it does a really good job moving. I find that really works. Now, at some point, you'll have 5 Pro or more advanced 6 Pro or whatever it is at the time who could do that, but I'm afraid that's going to be the one where they're charging 2,000 to 20,000 a month per seat, and I'm not paying that.
Yeah. True. True. Okay. Now, maybe you explain the context, problem, and then the solution. Right.
No, I haven't gotten to the solution is something truly original, and that is far more complicated. I was just giving you the problem, which I've converted for business use to solve everyday issues. The solution is coming up with something completely original for something that's mission critical.
Okay.
That's a much longer conversation.
Okay. Okay. So now let's go. I just want to link this one for if someone is listening from a student's mindset at students, right? So you give an example of applying it in a business. So maybe the
Right.
same principles can students can follow for their
Not even close.
not even close.
So if
Okay.
you're dealing with a dyslexic student, okay, what you're going to find is for most kids, they're not going to do the work
Okay.
because they're academic specialists, not generalists. So, for example, when I'm working with typical students, I have to do something in a speciality. their area of extreme interest and ability, or they're not going to do the work. So, for example, have you ever been to Disneyland or Disney World or any
Yeah,
Disney park?
I've been.
Have you walked in and did you feel the magic?
Yeah, when I was maybe 10 years back. Yes.
Okay. Remember walking in and it looks like it's called Main Street USA? That was Marceline, Missouri. That it comes from. That's where Walt was between 5 and 10. Why am I spending so much time on it? Because this is the most popular book that I work
Cool.
with dyslectics. Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination. People think he was dyslectic. All 1,000 words of this. This thing is designed for 17-year-olds. I'll give this to a 10-year-old
Okay.
who's reading as if they're a 6-year-old. And I give them this. All right. I will have them literally spend months on Marceline, Missouri. I'll have them go through any word they don't know exactly what the word is and the dictionary definition. I'll have them circle it.
Okay.
And then I'll have them type out the word, go to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. They would have to pick their definition and type it out, not copy and paste, type it out. How many times do you need to write out a word and the definition until you permanently know it?
I think quite some time.
Right. 5,
Yeah.
10, 20.
Yeah.
I don't know what the number is.
Yeah.
Same with a dyslectic. It's some number.
Some.
So have them do this. So they're listening to their audiobook while following along with their finger, trying to answer a specific question. What is Walt like? What does he dislike? What does he want to do? Have them go through that chapter literally over 100 times
Okay.
as they're going through this process. So why do I do that? Because if they're in your speciality, what they're super interested in, they will focus like crazy and do that work. 2 years later, it does take a 10-year-old about 2 years to learn all these words. I will have them try. The first universal theme is so easy to find. The second one, I've never had a parent find it. I have a 12-year-old girl with her mom. It's right there when her mom has a master's degree. And she said, I can't believe I missed it. 12, they're reading like a 17-year-old. So we do that. And then we teach them not from the general to the specific, but the specific to the general. Because if you ask a dyslectic, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? They're going to say yes. We're going to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. And number 3, it's word analysis followed by articulation. Have to work in their speciality during the intervention period.
Okay.
Okay. And in that intervention period, you focus on just what they really like. You teach them from the specific to the general. What personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous I Have a Dream speech? If you ask it the other way, it's like a dyslectic trying to grab fog. We can't do it. But we ask that question, we can go to his biography, find the answer. Then we're going to have another question present itself. We answer that, another question presents itself. And we keep going, and it's a forced organization in a linear manner. Then we do word analysis followed by articulation. What do schools do? They do not. We have them. They have us read several books a year.
Yeah.
Exact opposite of what dyslectics want. They teach us from the general to the specific, so we can't do anything. And they shouldn't really do word analysis followed by articulation. Why? I have overactivity up here, nothing going on back here. You don't have much going up here, crazy back here. The schools are designed for you. So what we have to do with these kids is during the intervention period, they're at grade level or above, just that one book they're interested in. Now, once they're at grade level, like Reed he's now started 6th grade. His friends wanted him in public school. Public school doing just fine. Mainstream. Last December, he would have been forced into special education away from his friends, and he would have been coming home crying. That's completely different. So the first thing I gave you was an adaptation of what I do to people. But
Right.
dyslectics, we have to follow that second model.
Okay. So how's your experience going with the normal kids, normal people?
What we find is they go through the process so much faster, but the dyslectic goes so much deeper. So with the dyslectic, how far did you go in your education?
Masters, like
Okay.
MSc in.
Okay. When you did your master's program, did you look around to some of your classmates and wonder, how the heck did these not smart people get into my program?
Yeah,
Did you
that's
notice?
common, right? Yeah, true.
Okay, with a dyslectic you walk into a master's degree with a dyslectic and especially a PhD, day one, they're top of the class. Because remember in your master's degree, you had to keep coming up with innovative solutions that nobody has done before. And they just assumed you could do reading and writing really well. You wouldn't be there. Okay. That's what dyslectics do. We have that massive overactivity in the front part of the brain. So, for example, in my case, I went to law school to learn to read and write. Second day of contracts, they call on me. I'm yelling at the professor. He's yelling at me in a very spirited, considered polite for 15 minutes. My classmates, after they graduate, couldn't have done that. When I came up with that original program from New York State, I was told it was going to take years to get approval from Professor Collins. Guess how long it took me?
A year?
Less than 2 weeks.
My, okay.
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 So there is a tremendous advantage for dyslexics. We get out of the workforce, especially with a graduate degree. All right. We just see things other people don't. The artificial intelligence was a godsend for us. When ChatGPT Pro came out last December at
Right.
$200 a month, I bought it that day. It liberated me like nothing ever could. Yeah, it does my writing for me, but I tell it what to do. I'm doing the
What to do?
thinking aspect of
What
it.
to do? True.
Okay.
And
But
you're not following the journally, just and this question comes back to that prompt and how you write and how you ask questions and then you go in depth.
yeah, I don't follow the prompting advice like everybody wants these super. I tend to have a conversation with it. And a lot of times it does things that I don't want it to do until I finally figured out, like now when I'm doing my book, what I finally just found is here's what the author, the human expert said. It already told me what changes it wants to make. I said, how do we integrate these two things into one piece where you make minimum changes? And if it's more than one prompt, I go back and I cut back the words
Right.
because it always tries to do too much and go too long.
True. Right.
And that's where I just like to, again, I just kind of talk to it. Again, not the massive prompts that I had one created where there's like 90 questions it wants answered. So what I'll do there is I'll say, how do I do this in Pro? Give me as long of a narrative as possible. And it writes about 2,000 words. I'll say, use that to fill in this. And then what else do we need to do to fill that in? And then half an hour later, when the damn prompt's finally done, I run it. And I do that for really critical things. Like, for example, I was asking it when I was doing the problem way that I came up with a much more efficient way dealing with dyslectics, where I would go back and when I would ask, not for one universal thing for a reason, but two. And then what I found is we would spread that out across the books from a beginning to an end. And then I incorporated things from what you need to pass the New York State Regents exam for high school kids, and then what the craft of research wants. And we're talking about adding warrants, and people don't even know what a warrant is when we're dealing with body paragraphs. That's how involved the craft of research is. And I just thought of that as a better way now by just going through a process the kids already understand. The first ones will get you to like the fourth or fifth grade level for body paragraphs. This one zooms you up to advanced high school.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thank you so much for joining Open Tech Talks. So if someone, maybe before we conclude for today's, any tip for which are the common people, right? Any tip how they can treat them
Right.
and
Well,
how they can
the best thing
embrace.
is
Yeah.
I gave you a general overview. So the best thing to do is just go on to my website, dyslexiaclasses.com, and it says, ask a question. All right. And I get right back to people within 12 hours typically. If you're dealing with dyslexia, there's a button there that says download free report. And you just fill out a few questions and they give you a report, the 3 reasons your child is having trouble in school due to dyslexia and how to get past it. And then we set up a free 30-minute Zoom session. All right.
All right.
But it's just dyslexiaclasses.com, and that's plural with an S, so dyslexiaclasses.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me.